For more than 3 weeks, prisoners in Alabama went on strike, refusing to work and demanding humane prison conditions. According to a 2019 DOJ report, Alabama's prisons have some of the highest rates of homicide and rape in the country, and the Department of Justice called the state, quote, deliberately indifferent to prisoner harm. During the strikes, social media posts from inside showed prisoners refusing to cook, clean, and carry out other administrative tasks in dozens of facilities across the state. In response, the Alabama Department of Corrections cut the number of meals served per day from 3 to 2, served cold meals rather than hot ones, and cut visitation at various facilities. Prisoner advocates claim the change was to retaliate against the strike. The Alabama DOC says it made the changes because of the loss of manpower. Either way, all of this highlights just how critical prison labor has become, not just in Alabama, but across the country.
Put a captive group of people in a prison where their jailer and employer are the same entity without any supervision and without any standards. And it's not that surprising that you end up with really abusive and exploitative situations.
Yale professor and attorney Claudia Flores co-authored a nationwide report on prison labor. Her study found 65% of inmates, roughly 800,000 people, report working behind bars. And more than 75% of inmates surveyed said they have been punished for refusing to work.
There are all sorts of ways that people were coerced into doing work. Sometimes their free time would be taken away from them. Sometimes they would be given, have privileges taken away from them or be given certain kinds of privileges. Sometimes they would just be straight up, forced. And if not, they were punished.
But before I came out, man, the last job that I had was a healthcare facility maintenance worker.
Sam Nathaniel Brown spent 24 years in prison before being released on parole, but Brown's last job behind bars forced him to the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic.
I was the first person in the state in the carceral setting to have to disinfect and clean a cell and an office where a staff member and then a prisoner tested positive for COVID-19. So I was terrified for my life.
Brown says when he refused to work, he was threatened with a disciplinary measure that would have made him ineligible for parole for an additional 8 years.
I would have been looking at a minimum of 8 years, period. Just because I didn't want to risk my life to go clean up COVID-19 and I couldn't say no.
Because of his experience during the pandemic, Brown drafted an amendment to the California Constitution from his prison cell, the California Abolition Act, or ACA 3. The amendment called for an end to involuntary servitude across the state. Like the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, California is one of 20 states nationally that allows involuntary work as a criminal punishment.
Being incarcerated is the punishment. So if you commit a crime, your freedom is taken away. That's the punishment. It's not, and now we're going to force you to mop floors and we're going to force you to, fight fires without proper equipment or whatever it is that's happening.
There is no place for slavery, forced labor, or involuntary servitude on our books.
Brown's amendment was picked up by California State Senator Sidney Kamlager and made its way through the state legislature. Supporters of prison labor have pointed to job experience as the real benefit of work behind bars and raised concerns that increasing prisoners' pay would be unsustainable financially. Brown's amendment to the California Constitution stalled after the State Department of Finance estimated it would cost $1.5 billion to pay the state's $15 minimum wage to the incarcerated Californians. Despite ACA 3 not going the distance, other states are following Brown's lead. Voters in Tennessee, Alabama, Louisiana, Oregon, and Vermont are all going to vote on a version of this proposal in November, banning involuntary servitude for everyone, including those convicted of a crime. Colorado, Nebraska, and Utah have already removed the language from their state constitutions via a statewide ballot measure. Jamal Andrus, Newsy.